Hello, welcome back to another episode of Brews with Bruno. I'm Father Paul Calla, vocation director for the Oblates of the Virgin Mary, and I'm here with.
I'm Father Jorge Sanchez. I'm a parochial vicar at our Oblate Parish, St. Mary's in Alton, Illinois, and a chaplain for our local high school there, Marquette Catholic High School.
Awesome. So, what we're going to talk about this episode is we have some books here. It's Father Jorge's and my favorite thing to do is reading books.
I just want to point out, look how thin my books are, and then look at this thick book. Like, this is a guy that reads. I, on the other hand, like...
You probably have pictures in your books, too.
Boom.
And you know the page.
It's a picture book, too.
You
Look.
know the page. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. I have to look at Lucas back behind the camera here for a second. Our founder, Father Lanteri, Venerable Bruno Lanteri, his full name there, one of the part of his ministry with the Oblates of the Virgin Mary that we still do today is promoting good books. And not just promoting it for laity in our different youth groups like the Amicitia Christiana groups or in our parishes, retreat houses, all the ways that we do ministry, but also for ourselves. And he has this quote, this short little sayings. I call him a man of short sayings, to be honest. I said that every day should do at least read one page of spiritual reading. And so...
What book are you reading right now, Father Paul? I mean, besides these, like, are you reading any good spiritual books right now?
The Bible.
Oh, come on. That's such a cop-out answer.
I'm reading a book, the biography of Alexander Hamilton, that then the musical was based off of. But I know it's controversial, hot take. But I like Hamilton, but I've never read the book. It's like 900 pages. That's why I didn't bring that one. So I'm reading that right now. But just the importance of reading. Because I grew up, I read a lot growing up. Low key, to be honest, like when I got ordained, I couldn't read for a year.
Why?
Because we read so much in seminary. There's so much to read. You can't even read everything that they want you to read in seminary. And so for that first year of seminary, or not first year of seminary, my first year post-ordination, anytime I tried to open a book, I couldn't do it. I just would set it back down. It took a good 12 to 18 months to kind of get this desire back to read. And what I did, when I came back to reading, is I went back to books, some of my favorite books that I read before, so from one of the books that I love, I promoted it a lot. It's called Reed of God, R-E-E-D of God by Carol Houselander.
Can you show me the picture? Because you're covering.
There's no picture of it.
Yeah.
On the cover, but there's no pictures in the book, bro.
Yeah.
Man, who puts this? Who puts this out?
Anyway, Penguin Classics, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So I should get a cut of every book that gets sold. If I was a college athlete and had an NIL deal, whoever publishes this should be my NIL deal, because I promoted this book to so many people.
Christian Classics.
Any spiritual director, people come to confession, parish mission that I've done, all that kind of stuff. Like, promoted this book to so many people. Reed of God, I first read it in December, Advent 2012. Father Sean Monahan, our novice master, who was also my spiritual director at the time, told me to read this book for Advent. You'll love it, and you'll read it so many times. And I've read parts of it or all of it during every Advent season since 2012, and I get something out of it every time. And the synopsis of the book, Reed of God, it's all about our Blessed Mother, Mary. And the author, Carol Houselander, who really probably could be considered a mystic, the very first chapter opens up with how Mary, by being the mother of God and receiving Jesus literally into her womb and being pregnant, had this space within her to receive Christ. She uses these three different images of a chalice, a bird's nest, and the piper's reed to make music, an image of Mary receiving Christ. And that's an image for the readers to think about, how is God asking me to receive his son Christ into my life? And then going from there. And so for me, it's hands down for like the best book on our Blessed Mother, not just to read it, but to pray with it. I'll take it to a holy hour during Advent and just read one line in there. And so one of the reasons why I also promote it and then move on to let you, go to one of your books is, something I hear a lot from young men who discern, and young people in general who are on fire for their faith, for being Catholic and for Jesus, is they want everyone else to be on fire as well. And
Hmm.
Houselander addresses this in the book that, when we grow closer to Mary, we also grow closer to Jesus. And especially if we've been away from the faith, that we get this fire and we want everyone else to be on fire for God, to be on fire for Jesus and the church and our Blessed Mother, but we're not patient with them. And we think that the way God has really worked with us, how the Holy Spirit has worked with us in our lives, that God's going to do the same thing in the same way. And we can become very upset, especially when it comes to family members and close friends. And she writes in there that, like our Blessed Mother, the best thing we can do in these moments of our lives is to just be present. Words will never suffice. Just be present and continue to do what you do, to go to church, to pray, to say your rosary, all the things that we do as Catholics, as good Catholics, hopefully. Just do that. Be present. Be a witness, because that's what Mary did. And so Advent's, a little ways away probably, or if you're looking for something to read during Advent or any time, a good book on Mary, Read of God by Carol Houselander, I think hands down is something that I still read and pray with. Good Lord, 13 years later
Hmm.
after I first did it.
That book was also recommended to me by Father Sean Monahan, and I'm like you. I've been reading that book every year, but the one chapter that really sticks out to me, at least in that book, is might be the first chapter, emptiness. Like right
Yeah.
off the bat,
Yeah.
like, oh, that's such a I had a retreat based on that, just emptiness, and kind of really used her a lot. So I'm like you, heavily promote that book. I'm gonna promote that book as one of my own too. Oh, because okay, to be honest, Father Paul said bring 3 books. I only brought 2 because I forgot that we were doing 3. That's just the kind of guy I am, humble. Speaking of humility, the book that I brought is actually Humility Rules. I could have written the book, but Saint Benedict I think has some pretty good tips in here.
He didn't write a thesis, so he thinks going to make you think you can write a book.
This is such a good book. It's first of all, somebody recommended it to me. It was actually my spiritual director, and he goes, you should really read that book. I think you'll find it entertaining, but also there's some really good tips there about humility. I don't know why he was telling me that, but so I bought it, and first thing that stood out was there's pictures in there. Look at that. I heart me. There's
Yeah.
pictures, and it's actually a really, really good book. Um, it goes basically through the rules of Saint Benedict, and he tells you, why humility? Why do we need humility in this world? And at the end of every chapter, he gives you a little challenge at the end of how
Yeah.
to be humble. So
What challenge has made you more humble?
that one, I was just about to talk about that one.
Oh,
Um,
Holy Spirit.
I know. So one of the things that it said, be grateful. It's so easy to thank God. Be grateful for your gifts and all that stuff and things like that, which we normally all do. And then it says, but then think about 3 things you're terrible at and give thanks to God for that too.
Mm.
I go, whoa, hold
Name
on,
one of
hold on.
them. You have to name one of them.
Oh yeah, working out. Like I'm terrible at working out. I mean, look at me. I'm the epitome of.
Oh,
It is a struggle, but
that was a great growth of humility for me to like fire back with
I know.
something
See,
right
I just
there.
tossed you something. So
You'd be the best softball player ever.
but that was really kind of just thinking about that. What are some rules or some things you can grow in humility and the challenges that he gives you? And I'll be honest, I borrowed some of his stuff here for penances, such as when I give a penance, I'll say, well, think of one thing you're good at and give thanks to God for that, and one thing you're not so good at and give thanks to God for that too, because it really does stop you in your feet, or kind of just stops you, and makes you think, wow. I really need to grow in humility in that, because it's so easy to be grateful for the things I'm good at and not for the complain about the things that I'm not good at.
Hmm.
And there's also silly ones in there too. Like for example, he wrote somewhere in there, and I forget what the purpose of it was, but he goes, "If a mosquito lands on you, let it bite you."
No, malaria.
I know that's what I'm saying, but like, oh man, but that's what he says. It's a really, really good book, and it has pictures and in really short chapters too. So that's why I recommend this book. It really, really was helpful, and at least for me in my personal spiritual life.
Awesome.
What's your second book?
Second book is Boys in the Boat. if you've seen the movie, it doesn't
It's
even
not worth
compare.
it.
The movies, I'm just not good,
Mhm.
not good. They miss so much, which I will have to confess as well that this is probably my favorite book. And so, like all books that get made into movies, they're horrible for the most part. Like Lord of the Rings, probably an exception, and there's other ones, but especially this movie, it's so bad. So, Boys in the Boat, real quick.
Wait, hold on. Let me ask you. What made it so
What?
bad? What made the movie
The
so bad?
movie? Well,
Yeah.
I'm about ready to say it because the book covers these group of young men,
Mhm.
8 to 9 young men who represent the United States. I think the 1936 Olympics, the row team, and they're from the University of Washington out
Mhm.
west. Because at that time, usually the best college rowing crew in the nation in the U.S. would go represent the United States in the Olympics, unlike today. So they go to the Olympics. They win. They do the impossible. They defeat the German crew. Uh, it really is a miracle. Obviously, it tells it in the book, but the
Mhm.
book really follows one guy. One guy. His name is Joe Rance. It's a true story. True story for real. And Joe grew up in a poorer family. It's the Depression, so everyone's poor. Um, but really, it's like I was thinking about talking about it too. Like it's kind of like Father Lanteri. His mother died when he was a young boy,
Mhm.
and then this is gonna be a tongue twister. Think about this. This is this is very like Illinois, but it takes place in the Pacific Northwest, country backroads of Illinois. His father married his older brother's wife's sister. Okay, so Joe's older brother was married, and she had a twin sister, and that's who his dad married for his second wife.
Okay.
Yeah, say that 3 times and think about that. It's
No,
confusing.
it's too much.
Anyway, um, and she was not nice to Joe. And
Mhm.
literally, like one day during the Depression, he came home from school, and the family had the entire car packed. His dad took him aside and said, "We're leaving, and you can't come with us."
Mhm.
And so I think he was a young teenager at that point and had to fend for himself. Anyway, long story short, he makes it to the University of Washington and makes the crew. Makes the rowing team, and it just tells about his ups and downs from there. I've read this book at least 4 times, maybe 5 times. Again, I'm kind of like the kind of person when I find something I like, I just stick with it.
You can tell.
I know. But fell in love with it,
Mhm.
and again, I recommend it to many people. Any athlete, or if I was a high school, college coach, I'd make my team read it. If I had a group of office workers that I was in charge of, I would make my team read it because it's all about being a team. It's all about to row crew. Like one of Joe's biggest issues was when he was in the boat. He was a very powerful young man. From the many jobs that he would do to provide. He, cut timber. He would go in the summers into the mountains in the Rocky Mountains and help to hammerjack. He'd hang off a cliff by rope and with a jackhammer, hammer out rock to make roads below, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And so he's a strong guy, very powerful. But when he would row, he would act like he was the only guy in the boat, and he had to learn how to use less power to be able to row uh, in sync and more harmony with the other men. And they won the Olympics. So I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
tell. So it's like kind of like you, humility. It's learning your
Mhm.
strengths. It's learning to trust other people because he didn't trust others. Because how can you learn to trust others when your dad leaves you on the front porch one day and drives away with his, your stepmom and their kids that they've had since you? I mean, that's yeah.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful story, a very challenging story. You'll cry when you read it, to be honest.
Mhm.
Um, but it's about working together and trusting others in order to just live life. Like you can't live life. I mean, you can, but it's a difficult life if you want to live it with by yourself. And so, overcoming a lot of hurts um, in order to have a good life. And then there's the sports side of it too. And I love sports. So
That book right there, before I entered seminary, Father Tom Carson, who used to be the formator here for the Oblates, when I entered, that was one of his assigned readings before we entered seminary. He said, I want you guys to read this book, which is The Boys in the Boat. It was your idea? Yeah. So um, you have someone like me entering seminary. And you have someone like Father Jonathan and someone at that time, this other gentleman called Daniel, or named Daniel. And out of the three of us, two guys did not read the book. One guy did.
Hmm.
Daniel was the only one that read the book.
Shocking.
I know.
I thought you were gonna say like, how could you guys still work together or something like that? Say put them in the woods with nothing and see how they survive. Who comes out?
So we were supposed to read that
Lord of the
book.
Flies.
Hey, that's it. Never mind. We were supposed to read that book, and to this day, I have not read The Boys in the Boat. Sorry. And I think you've recommended
watched
that
the
book.
movie, probably, haven't you?
I think so. I think I watched the movie. I
Totally
just
lame.
watched. I think it was on Netflix or something that I
Yeah,
watched
yeah.
something, but it was pretty. It was okay.
Yeah.
So for my book, the other one is hopefully some of you have heard the Litany of Trust. And this is a really good book, Jesus, I Trust in You. And it's actually a 30-day personal retreat with the Litany of Trust by Sister Faustina Maria Pio. She is a sister of life. And every day she just takes the Litany of Trust, takes a few words, she breaks them down, and she just talks about, you know, something to pray with for the day. So this is actually what I was using. I was reading this book towards my priestly anniversary, actually. It's kind of leading up. This is the last day that I read was on the anniversary, just to kind of just really just help. Not that I don't trust God, but just kind of just to deepen that trust. And in there, one of those chapters, she talks about the childlike dependency. You know, it's just you look at a kid, right? It's just they're so dependent on their mom and dad, and they just trust, right? I can't remember. I think she uses example of maybe, or somebody else used it. I forgot if I might be misremembering this, where like if you put your kid on a fridge, right, and your kid just kind of jumps down at you, like the kid just jumps down at you. The kid just trusts that the dad's gonna catch him.
Mm.
He goes, that's what we should do with Jesus.
Mm.
You know, how many of us don't do that? We'll sit on the fridge and just put ourselves and just know that
Never
he'll
sat
catch.
on the fridge. Your kids sat on the fridge, Lucas? Really? They
Did
won't
you
hit their
catch
heads
him?
on the ceiling?
Yeah.
I think yeah. I think the image I have is more of the dad who's waiting to catch their son or daughter as they jump off the diving board. They're
Oh,
so
yeah,
scared.
yeah.
Like the image I have is a kid trying to jump off the fridge and like smacking their head on the ceiling right now.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah.
How to teach you to trust?
How did it teach me to trust? Well, I think one of the biggest things with that, it's not that it taught me to trust. It's just that it deepened. I think for me, I'm always it deepened that trust more than anything because I'm always, we always talk about discerning the will of God, right? Like, oh, I'm discerning my vocation, and then once you kind of are done discerning, which you never really are, but let's just say, when I entered seminary, oh, I'm still discerning whether I'm staying, and then now as a priest, I'm not really discerning if I'm staying or leaving. It's just more of one of the things that I realized, and she talked about that in there somewhere in there, that God never really gives us clarity. He just gives you enough light to take the next step, to trust in taking that next step. So for me, it's just like, what?
I'm just thinking.
Oh, well, what are you thinking?
Like, don't anticipate, just participate.
Yeah. So things like that, just God always gives me enough light to take the next step with Him, whether it's in my ministry or my, with the Oblates here. What I mean by that is I'm always discerning in the sense of, okay, what's going to happen at OCIA this year? What's the theme? And the theme that I came up with this year is just trust.
Yeah.
Teaching our kids trust.
Yeah.
How do I do that? So it's just, I do that by trusting in Jesus Himself.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's a
interesting.
beautiful, beautiful book.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. I don't know, like an image or in my mind is like Waze right now,
Mm-hmm.
or Google Map, whatever. How we rely so much on that stuff these days. Anytime you go somewhere, especially here in Boston, you go somewhere like, okay, what's Waze saying? What direction should I go? And how we just trust we're gonna get there.
Mm-hmm.
When we don't really know the way, but we just know that, okay, we're gonna turn right in half a mile or turn right 100 feet onto this street.
Yeah.
And we do that so easily, but then it's so tough to do that with the Lord.
It is. And one of the things, I don't remember where I read this, but they were saying, trusting God is like, like Google Maps, right? When you're driving and it tells you to turn right and you miss your turn, You know how Google Maps just sort of redirects
Yeah, it
you?
redirects you, man. Yeah, yeah.
That's what God does too. You know,
Mm,
you miss your turn, God will redirect you back to the correct route.
mm. Homily. That's a
Absolutely.
homily material right there.
Yeah. See,
Sweet.
this is what I do. What's your other book?
Moving on, moving on, because that was a softball. That was a home run right there to come back at that one.
You're so humble. See, look at you,
You're gonna
humility.
laugh. So last book since I came prepared.
Oh boy,
Extreme
of course.
Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Mhm.
Guys are gonna laugh at me because I don't talk about Jocko that much anymore.
That's true. You moved on to some other dude. I forgot his name.
I don't know.
The Tesla guy with the horses and
Theo Vaughn.
yeah, that guy.
One time, bro. So Extreme Ownership, really quick.
Yeah.
I read this on retreat a couple years ago. It's about basically take ownership of your life and for your decisions. Don't complain, especially from positions of leadership, which I think that's, you could go on and on about that right now, but that you can create your own narrative to make a situation better when there's failure. And we talk about this Oblates, begin again. What we don't talk about enough is that before Father Lanteri says to begin again, that you must fall. But what do you do when you fall? Do you make excuses for yourself, for others, or do you take ownership of why you fell? In the church, that looks like going to the sacrament of reconciliation.
Yeah.
In Extreme Ownership, he's like, just admit that you fell and start over again and try to do better, learn from your mistakes. That's the number one rule of Extreme Ownership is take ownership of your decisions. Don't complain. And so while I like it is, that, to be honest, is because it's so easy as a priest, as a religious, to not take ownership at times. I call it this spiritual schizophrenia, spiritual bipolarism, where it can be like, oh, like something went really well, that the youth group that I wanted to start, 20 kids showed up the first day. The homily was a banger. Like everyone was like, oh, that was the best homily ever. And it's like, oh yeah, Holy Spirit working so great. But then when something fails in ministry or personally, it's like, oh, it's Satan. Like it's all the devil or something like that. Like when like, no, like how can you take ownership? Like you have to do your part. Kind of like what I said just a little bit ago. Don't anticipate things, just participate and then seek to strive and grow. And I think, it's so easy to deflect. It's so easy to even use excuses, even as a priest, as a religious. What I like about Extreme Ownership is it's taught me to say, I messed up. It's taught me, for example, about a year ago in a meeting with our advisory board, a very tough question of mine came up and I could have deflected. When some board members asked me about a certain part of our vocation plan, and I had some great excuses and could have said, well, it's because of this guy or that guy. But I was like, no, like I'm the vocation director. This is where I let the ball drop and moved off there. And what it's led to is like some great opportunities working with some other Catholic organizations and has led to conversations with other great, young great men who are discerning of vocation, whether it's to the Oblates or another order, diocesan priesthood. So it's like, it's not fun to say that I dropped the ball. It's very difficult to begin again, but yet the way to get better and grow, and also I think to earn the respect of others, especially when you're in leadership, and say that people want to come on board and work with you, or that they respect you as a leader, is just say, yeah, I dropped the ball. I messed up. And I think that book, his teacher there's also, he uses war stories from his time in Iraq. The Iraq and Afghanistan war, specifically Iraq for him. So again, like I like that stuff as well. So Extreme Ownership, maybe we'll get some milk on here if you know, to go with our coffee here for Brews with Bruno. But that's my third book. I think anyone who wants to grow in leadership or who's been told you're a complainer, it'd be a good read. It's not a foo-foo read. It's a big boy, put your grown-up pants on kind of read. So
yeah, you talk about failing and everything, and guys just kind of beat themselves up when they fail. At least some of the young guys that I work with, I go, you know what? I always tell them this, boys hide, young men or men take responsibility for their actions.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
yeah, and it's not like beat your chest, I'm a man kind of thing, deep voice, but it's like, well, you made a mistake, but like, how will you grow? How can you get better? And you're always going to make mistakes, and that's the positive part of it too. That's the good. Jocko's known for his good YouTube video. Good. You made him say good. You can grow, and then you'll get better at that, and then you're going to fail at something else. But if you continually don't deflect, take ownership of the decisions you make, you're going to keep growing as well. So I like it. It helps me out a lot in ways that, reading a theology book or prayer, all that's important, prayer obviously, but like Jesus took ownership as well.
True.
He had made the apostles take ownership.
Yeah.
In the religious life, it's going back to the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Go to Mary. That's mine. Boys in the Boat, Extreme Ownership. We've got some humility and trust. Just some random books for ourselves, but also how, again, we carry out the mission that Father Lanteri started 200 years ago of strive to read every day, even if it's just one page of spiritual reading or a good book that's going to just help you to grow in virtue and love of others, and probably most importantly, love of yourself. And
well, kind of just taking what you said there. Yeah, it's always really important. I've fallen in love with reading more as a priest than I did as a seminarian, because I was kind of like you, the sense that, I read this, I want to read this. But now that as a priest, I'm always looking for a good book to read, especially for a good spiritual book for my own spiritual nourishment. And I'll take extreme ownership saying that I dropped the ball and I forgot the third book. But there's a but. There's a but.
You're not living the rule.
What did you say?
Anyway, go.
No, currently reading this book. I'm not done with it yet, so I don't have the full picture of the book yet. But a parishioner recommended this book called Family Unfriendly. A parishioner at St. Mary's recommended that book, and I started reading it. It's actually a really good book about how our culture really, we try to be pro-life, but our culture doesn't really promote that much, in the sense of like little psychological ways, like, you buy a minivan for the kids, but then the what is it, the seats that what do we call those, Lucas?
Car seats.
Car seats. Thank you. They take up so much space. So psychologically, that actually is like, well, we can't have another kid, because then that means we need to put another car seat. So you got to make sure it only promotes like 3 kids. When you want to have a lot of kids. So it's just all these things to promote a culture of life, and also to promote parents that are helicopter parents in the Catholic Church, because there are so many of them. No offense if you are one of them, but it just kind of promotes a healthy way and how to raise your kids in our culture, to raise them in their Catholic faith. And it also gives some ideas for parents, just to I'm sorry, not parents. It gives ideas to priests to really promote that at our church. For example, hey, here is I don't know, like inviting like specifically father and sons. Hey guys, here Father Jorge will host a cigar and beer night, and he'll have the young adults babysit the kids. Just be kids. There's some really good tips in there that I haven't read the whole book, but I think it's a really, really good book, and it's worth reading, because I'm reading it so far. And from my perspective, it's a good book.
Awesome.
Cool. Got anything else, Father Paul?
I'm out of coffee, so no.
Alrighty.
Anyway, so some good books. Read them. Don't read them. But they could be helpful in
And
many
if you
areas
have any
of
good
life.
book recommendations, I think they should probably tell us.
That'd be good as well.
Good books, though.
We'll make Father Jorge read them first.
Make sure they have pictures, though.
Anyway, he's Father Jorge. I'm Father Paul. Thanks for listening. Hope to see you next time.
See you guys.
God bless.